If you are an Aries from childhood, you feel one simple thing. With you, it's either honesty or nothing. You don't know how to live in the gray areas. You can't pretend. You can't tolerate for long what inside you feels like injustice. And that's why so often people try to test you for patience, endurance, to see how long you'll hold up before you explode and walk away. Many people think that Aries is a burst of energy, an impulse, a strong character. But in reality, Aries has a very precise internal sense of boundaries. You can be soft, caring, generous, and truly involved, but only as long as you feel respected. And this is where something is rarely spoken aloud. Aries can't be offended, not because they are weak, but because they don't know how to betray themselves. When you're hurt, you don't immediately get angry. First, you're surprised, almost in disbelief, that someone could treat you this way. Then, you try to explain, sometimes justify the person, sometimes pretend nothing bad happened. But inside, the process has already started, and it's impossible to stop. You begin to distance yourself emotionally, and this is the most dangerous stage in any relationship with an Aries, because on the outside, you're still there, but inside, you're already gone. Many mistakenly think that Aries are hot-headed and easy to forgive, that if they yelled, they've released their anger and forgotten everything. But the truth is, a truly hurt Aries doesn't yell. It's silence. It's cold, where there used to be warmth. When you're genuinely hurt, you don't take revenge. You don't make devious plans. You don't humiliate in return. You simply stop investing. And for Aries, this is the point of no return. You can continue talking, you can answer, you can even smile. But that fire that made you alive around that person no longer burns. And that's why offending an Aries is dangerous. Not because they might hurt you with words, but because they can forever turn you off from their inner life. Aries is a sign of beginnings, the first impulse, the sign of confidence, and honestly, there is no one more truthful. When you love, it's obvious. When you want something, it's felt. When something matters to you, you don't hide it. And if the person next to you starts devaluing, making fun of your feelings, testing how much you can endure, playing hot and cold, or thinking you'll always forgive them, they don't understand the main thing. Aries doesn't tolerate much, but if they do, it means their feelings were truly strong. And here's the paradox. People think, if Aries is around, everything is fine. But if you're quietly around, it means you're already saying goodbye inside. You don't leave suddenly for no reason. You leave when inside, it becomes empty. And most often, it's forever. Aries rarely returns to where they once felt pain or insecurity. Not out of pride, but out of self-respect. You can't be held by fear. You can't be tied by manipulation. You can't be broken because your inner fire either burns freely or not at all. When people say Aries is hot-headed, they usually confuse two different things. A flash is a reaction, and pain is a process. As an Aries, you can explode quickly, speak sharply, react instantly. But that doesn't mean you don't feel deeply. On the contrary, your sharpness isn't cruelty. It's a way to protect your inner truth while it's still alive. The truly dangerous moment begins when you stop reacting, when you no longer want to explain, when you don't want to prove anything, when the feeling inside you arises that it no longer matters whether they understand you or not. And this state is final. Aries can forgive a lot. Rudeness, if it comes from stupidity. Harsh words, if they come from emotions. Mistakes, if there is remorse. But there are things you never forgive. The first is devaluation. When your feelings are called too much, when your reaction is mocked, when your straightforwardness is used against you. For you, This doesn't just sound like words. It feels like, I am not respected here. And without respect, you cannot live. The second is manipulation through silence, when you are punished with coldness, when someone disappears on purpose, when they pretend you should figure things out on your own. You can endure conflict, but you can't handle games, because you always play honestly. The third is betrayal in small things. It doesn't have to be infidelity. Sometimes just one act is enough, and you suddenly realize they don't count on you, they don't protect you, they don't choose you. And this is where the internal break happens. You can still be around, but you no longer invest your soul. And without your soul, Aries is just a body, a presence, a shadow. People often don't understand what exactly they've lost because you don't create scenes. You don't demand. You don't beg. You just become different, more distant, colder, more independent. And that scares them because before, being near you felt like life, movement, energy. But then, silence. And that's when attempts to regain attention, interest, or even recognition, which you've been waiting for months, begin. But the moment has already passed. Aries rarely leaves impulsively. They leave when they stop believing. And it's nearly impossible to regain that trust. You don't hold on to the past. You don't live in memories. You always look ahead. And once you've made up your mind, you're already mentally in the new phase. That's why offending Aries is dangerous, because they don't destroy, they transform. After pain, you become stronger, clearer, firmer in your boundaries. You no longer give second chances where you once had to pick yourself up piece by piece. And this isn't revenge, it's maturity. You don't shut yourself off from the world. You simply no longer open up to everyone. And the one who once thought they could be harsh, sarcastic, or careless with you will forever remain on the other side of your life. There's a particular state of Aries that almost no one recognizes in time. It's not anger, not hurt, and not even disappointment. It's clarity. It doesn't come suddenly. It comes after many internal dialogues that you silently have, after attempts to understand, justify, give chances, after honestly asking yourself, am I happy here, or am I just holding on out of habit? When clarity comes, Aries becomes calm, very calm. And this moment is the scariest, because before, you could explode, you could react, you could say something unnecessary. But now you're even, composed, distant. You no longer explain why you're hurt. You don't prove that you deserve better treatment. You don't argue. You simply stop engaging. People often think that if Aries is silent, it means they're holding something back, that if they don't react, they'll explode later. But that's a mistake. If Aries is silent for a long time, they are no longer inside the situation. They have already stepped out. At that moment, an important shift occurs within you. You no longer wait, hope, or fantasize. You accept the fact, and acceptance is the end. From this point on, the person can do whatever they want. Apologize, write long messages, promise, even change their behavior. But you no longer look at them the same way, because the most important feeling of security is gone. And for Aries, this is critical. You can be in chaos, movement, or risk, but next to someone, it must be clear. Are they with you or not? When this clarity disappears, the connection disappears too. And this is when what many call Aries' toughness happens, although in reality, it's honesty. You don't pull the person behind you. You don't give false hope. You don't keep them around out of pity. You leave, so you don't lie to yourself or them. And this requires immense inner strength, because inside you may still have warmth, memories, attachment, but you choose respect for yourself. Aries doesn't leave easily. They leave properly. And that's why after you, there is a sense of emptiness, because being near you was real, without masks, without calculation, without falsehood. You didn't promise what you didn't feel, and you didn't stay where you weren't valued. The one who once hurt Aries will almost always realize this later, when it's already impossible to return, when the person who once filled the space with energy, who was alive, real, involved, is no longer there. And then the realization comes. It wasn't about the conflict, the words, or the situation. It was about the relationship. There's another mistake people often make toward you. They think that because Aries is strong, they don't feel pain. If they don't complain, it means they feel nothing. If they move on, it means they didn't care. But that's not true. Aries feels deeply, but they don't show it off. You don't like to be in the victim position. You don't like being looked at with pity. You don't spend long analyzing pain with words. You experience it inside, in silence. And that's why, from the outside, it may seem like it's easy for you, like you let go quickly, like you instantly find new goals, people, meanings. But inside, a complex process is happening. You are reassembling yourself. Aries doesn't break from pain. They navigate through it. What was once trust becomes attentiveness. What was openness becomes selectivity. What was an impulse becomes a conscious choice. You don't harden, you mature, and it shows. After a serious hurt, Aries doesn't change outwardly. They change inwardly. They stop explaining the obvious, proving their worth, pulling relationships along by themselves. They begin to choose only those who choose them just as clearly. And this is where a new chapter begins. Aries, who was once deeply hurt, no longer goes where love has to be earned. They go where they are seen. That's why, often after a difficult breakup or loss, an Aries life takes an abrupt upward turn. Not because they sought revenge, but because a huge amount of energy has been freed up. Energy that they once spent on holding on. You start moving faster, feeling clearer, setting higher goals. And people around you feel it. A different kind of attraction appears. Calmer, more confident, stronger. And then, the one who once decided they could hurt you suddenly sees that you are no longer the person they knew. You've become unattainable, not because you closed off, but because you grew. Aries doesn't hold grudges. They simply don't go back to places where they were valued less than they value themselves. And here, it's important to understand the main point. Hurting Aries means losing access to their true side forever. The side where they inspire, support, light up, walk beside you, not ahead or behind. Because being with Aries is not just being with a person. It's a state of life, movement, and truth. If you destroy that once, it's impossible to return. Aries comes into your life not by chance. They come as a test for honesty, maturity, and the ability to be real, not convenient. With you, it's impossible to live on autopilot, impossible to hide your true, strong motives. It's impossible to pretend that everything is fine when inside you feel empty. You feel it immediately. And that's why, with you, people either grow or leave. There's no third option. Aries doesn't teach gently. They teach clearly. If someone is with you, it means they are ready to be alive. If they leave, it means they couldn't handle the truth. You don't tolerate double standards, games of getting close then pulling away, words without action, promises without responsibility. Because for you, love isn't words. It's actions, choices, presence. You can forgive a mistake, but you don't forgive repeated disrespect. And this is important for those who think Aries just acted impulsively and will cool down. No, If a chance was given, it means there's still some faith left inside. If you leave, it means faith has died. Aries doesn't hold on just in case. They don't keep people as backups. They don't return from loneliness. You would rather be alone than be with someone and feel unnecessary. And this is what makes you strong. You're not afraid of emptiness because you know that from emptiness, something new always arises. That's why you can't play with Aries' feelings. Test their boundaries out of curiosity. Use their sincerity, or think they'll just endure. They won't endure. They decide. And when they decide, it's final. Now, the most important thing. Why shouldn't you hurt Aries? Because when you hurt them, you lose not just a relationship, you lose their support, their faith, and the fire of someone who truly walked by your side. You don't destroy someone's life. You simply step out of it. And after you, it always gets quieter. Not because you left loudly, but because the energy that went with you is gone. Aries is a sign that can't be replaced. You can find someone else, you can start something new. But that feeling of life that was next to you, it's almost impossible to replicate. And if you have an Aries in your life, you should never hurt them. You should cherish, listen to, and respect them. Because Aries doesn't come twice. And if this video resonated with you, if you recognized yourself or someone close to you, please give it a like so we know you feel this topic. And be sure to share in the comments if there was a time in your life when you left in silence, but forever.